What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another blind tasting episode of Drinking Through a Mask. We are in the home stretch of this flight. This is wine number 5 out of 6. If you've been following this flight, you know it got off to a good start, but had a bit of a crash and burn on wine number 4. You know, it's very easy to let one rough wine ruin a whole flight for you. And to be honest, I had to stop and take a breather about 20 seconds into this wine. So let's see if that helped. As a reminder, these 6 wines have all come from a Master of the World blind tasting kit. You can get your own at mtwwines.com. Check it out. Don't forget to hit that like button. It's the best way to show your support. And while you're there, if you like it extra, hit the subscribe button. Join the team. You can also find fun stuff on my Instagram too. All right, let's get started. It is rather translucent. It is day bright. Core color here is ruby, fading out to a, it's kind of a more ruby rim. It's a little pink as well. The tears here are not very noticeable at all. So, on the nose, the wine is sound. Wine is medium plus in intensity. The wine smells youthful. Fruits are red cherry. Driven. Red cherry, red raspberry, blackberry, black plum, blueberry kind of thing going on to it. Florals, definitely like purple violets, hibiscus. Green vegetables, nothing terribly effusive there. Definitely like a black tea, like a Earl Grey kind of like lightly citrus. All right, so let's stop it right here for a second. We have some good clues already. And I just want to talk about how this is a deductive process. At first, we are not trying to figure out what the wine is. We're trying to figure out what the wine isn't. So, as you've seen so far, the clues we have are a light colored wine, kind of ruby pink, is pretty see-through. It has some blue fruit notes and a strong kind of black tea with a little bit of a citrus note to it. So we're cutting out thick-skinned varieties like Cabernet, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, etc., etc. If it is one of these grapes, it would definitely have to be from a cool climate. So little black olive, a little brown mushroom, still focus on the flowers and the fruit now for sure. Herbal, maybe a little bit like a Garrigue, Herb de Provence style thing. So a little bit of tarragon, maybe like some of these more pretty kind of oily cooking herbs. Spices, definitely like 5 spice and allspice, the kola nut. Earth. Okay. Yeah, earthy for sure. Lots of like limestone, lots of really drying, really intense kind of core of that kind of minerality to it. Definitely like that truffle-y mushroom, soft earth, clay kind of thing that's going on. It's really, really nice. Not really any kind of animal thing, a little meaty kind of thing going on to it. Really kind of balances it out really nicely. But this wine, it's all about like really pretty earth and fruit and stuff like that. All right, structure. The wine is dry. The acid level is medium plus. The alcohol level is medium plus. The body of the wine is, I'm going to say also medium plus. I didn't talk about oak on the nose, so I'll get to it in a second. Tannin here is, I'm going to say medium. They are kind of firm, but they definitely like have a softness. They're not overly massive. They're just kind of fine and only in certain specific places of the palate. The texture of the wine here, I would say, is lean and tart. The finish of the wine is long. The complexity is, I'm gonna say medium plus, but I think it's a really high quality wine here. Oak. Let's talk about oak. Yes. The oak is there. There's definitely vanilla. There's some baking spices. There's a little bit of like a toasty thing going on to it, but it is really, really well balanced. It's not kind of overtaking the wine at all. And it's well integrated. So definitely some new oak. I don't know, maybe about 30% or so. But all right, pre-conclusion. New World, Pinot Noir, Gamay. Could be Zinfandel if I'm just completely off base here, I guess. But probably from the United States. Again, could be from New Zealand. Could be Chilean, Argentinian maybe. Let's final conclusion this at a 2016 Pinot Noir from the United States, from Oregon, Willamette Valley, high quality producer here. Here we go, inputting our tasting into the Master of the World website. I go through this pretty deliberately in the first tasting video, so if you haven't seen that, check it out. And our score? A nice bounce back from wine number 4. 5 out of 6 total and 4 out of 5 on both the sensory and deduction scores. So I'm going to zoom through the detailed criticism of the tasting, but feel free to pause the video if you want to dive in. Be sure to focus on the right side of the screen because those are the things that we missed in the tasting. You'll notice that I lost credit for noting some earth that perhaps wasn't on the answer key. And you know what? That's okay, because more is better as long as you're listening to yourself and making sense. If you smell it or taste it, it's there, so say it. I thought that wine had some really nice earthy notes, but that's okay. So, what was the wine? 2016 Gary Farrell Hallberg Vineyard Russian River Pinot Noir. Classic California Pinot Noir. Not Oregon as we thought. Maybe it was a little fuller bodied, maybe a little bit more of a red fruit, kind of a candy thing going on that I didn't talk about, but that's okay. You know, this California versus Oregon Pinot Noir thing is definitely something I'm gonna have to nail down if I ever get to that Master Sommelier tasting exam level. But if you're on more of an intro level or just tasting at home, I think you should be pretty happy with this conclusion. So now I'm gonna dive into one section of the grid at a couple people's request. We're gonna talk about the chemical compounds. And be forewarned, this can be a little geeky. So starting with Brettanomyces. Brettanomyces is a yeast that can infect a wine in a good way or in a bad way. Even some beers are made with it. In a wine, you might get notes of sweat, leather, barnyard, some people like to say horse blanket, and yes, even manure. In small amounts, these can complement a wine really well and give it a really nice kind of earthy complexity. It can also take over a wine and make you throw it away. Some typical wines you might find this in are Bordeaux, Rioja, Tuscan Reds, and sometimes California Cabernet Sauvignon and red Burgundy as well. I tend to really like a little Brettanomyces. Next, maderization. Maderization is what happens to a wine if it gets hot or cooked along the way, kind of named after Madeira, which is a wine that is intentionally cooked at the winery. Tasting notes you get on a maderized wine would be black walnut, fig, stewed fruits, furniture polish, toffee, and burnt sugar. Like I said, this kind of happens to a wine if it gets heated. It's really only intentional in Madeira and some other kind of niche wines around the world. Generally, it's considered to be a fault. Speaking of faults, next is mercaptins. Mercaptins are a type of sulfur that will impart a rotten egg, kind of cooked cabbage smell to the wine. This is not good. If you smell that or like a burnt rubber kind of thing, your wine might be overrun with mercaptins. If you want to read a really geeky article about mercaptins, check out my link to Jaime Goode's Wine Anorak article from 2007 in the description below. Okay, oxidation. Pretty common stuff here. Oxidation can manifest itself by flavors of bruised fruits, hazelnut, marzipan, and caramel. A few grapes that will naturally oxidize easily are Chenin Blanc, Chardonnay a little bit, and on the reds, definitely Grenache. And any wine that spends a long time in barrel or bottle will oxidize naturally. Following that, we have sulfur and matchstick. This can be okay in a wine in small amounts. If you're smelling some smoky notes, burnt wood, a really strong black or red currant, or gunflint, you might have a wine that has some sulfur in it. A lot of times you can get this out of a wine, at least in part, by decanting a wine, swirling it around really hard, leaving it open for a while. That should take care of it. You'll find these in wines that are made in a reductive style, meaning that they are kept away from oxygen as much as possible. As well, Syrah is very naturally averse to binding with oxygen. So you might find this in some very young wines, and sometimes it can be indicative of a wine that was bottled in screw cap. And finally, volatile acidity. So volatile acidity is basically vinegar, acetic acid. This can come from a wine that spends extended time in barrel, or maybe some moldy grapes got into the ferment as well. Like Brettanomyces, volatile acidity can add a really nice note to the wine, but at the same time, it can overtake it. If you want to find some volatile acidity in some wine, grab some Italian reds. There might be some there. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. If you got something out of this, please hit the like button down there. And if you don't want to miss anything in the future, subscribe, join the team. See you soon to close out this flight with wine number 6. High five on box, pretty girl in Bobby's side.